Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 31st of May 2015 and we are still here. If you remember what we said last week, Steve, we said there was apparently a prediction now. We're always sitting on the fence these days. We're not sticking with dates because you know what it's like when you stick with dates.
Yeah, you end up getting married to them.
That's it. Or eating them, one or the other. But we said last week there was a prediction other people made regarding San Andreas Fault. The only thing that happened last week and last Thursday was the movie was released, San Andreas. That's all what happened. Now, there's still people out there and experts who say that it's not a case of when, it's a case of, not a case of if, it's a case of when. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on things and see what happens there. But yeah, them predictions again, you know, you can't rely on them, so you just have to sit in the fence with them. Anyway, good evening and welcome to OYM. Now, our guest on the show tonight is Alan Laws, who's a member of the National Citizens Movement. And we'll be getting Alan in a few minutes and talking to Alan all about the movement, all about the people's debate. Alan was there as well, along with Ben Gilroy. And we'll be talking to him about the whole situation in Ireland and what's going on. So tune into that for, you know, in a few minutes. We have a few things to talk about. The one thing that's on the list, just to let you know, we did talk about organising a seminar for the Pain Genie. Now, at the moment, there's a preliminary booking for the 21st of June in the Ardboyne Hotel in Navan. Now, we will confirm that with you. If you subscribe to our newsletter on our website or you're on our Facebook page, watch out there because we will put the flyer up there to let you know when it's confirmed. But so far, so good. It looks like that, you know, all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So chances are it will be the 21st of June. It'll start at 1 p.m. and it'll be in the Ardboyne Hotel in Navan. There is a coach that comes from Dublin, from Bazaris. It's the 109, and that comes from Bazaris from Dublin up to Navan. It stops outside the Ardboyne Hotel. There's also parking there. There's plenty of parking there as well, so you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to pay. So that's the plan of attack. So if there's any changes to that plan, we'll let you know. Watch out for the flyers and watch out for the email on the newsletter just to keep you posted. Steve, you're going to tell us about the
communication channels?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, communication channels.
I wasn't sure if you changed the format again. Maybe we're going to do the communication channels at the end of the show. I wasn't sure. So see you next week.
Anyway, and before we go any further, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, here we go.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
04692711212 is the number for the studio. If you are going to ring in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's going to be 00353 469271212. We also have the streams on the website as well. The fact that you're listening to us, you're obviously on one of those. OYMradio.com is the website. There's lots of information on there. Again, that's where the three streams are: OYM Radio Stream, UWS Stream, and the People's Internet Radio Stream. We're also monitoring the chat room on OYM for questions for a guest this evening, and we're also going to be monitoring the People's Internet Radio chat room as well, so hi to all the folks in there. What else we got for you? We've got Facebook on the website as well. If you are on any social media and you want to find out what we're up to, what's happening, what's moving, what's shaking, then you can click on the Facebook link on the website there. We also have the YouTube channel as well, that's down the bottom. We're also on TuneIn Radio, the app for the iPhones and the Android devices as well, so you can hear us if you're out and about. What else we got on the bottom of the website there? There is a little donate button if you have a spare couple of washers and, you need them to go to a good home. We would appreciate that as well. Alan.
Brilliant, Steve. Okay, just a couple of things. Myself and Steve would just like to give our listeners a big thank you for tuning in, because we do know that there's loads of other radio stations out there and there's loads of things that you could be doing on a Sunday evening. The fact that you're sitting down and listening to us and gabble on for 2 hours, it's really much appreciated. So we do appreciate you spending the time with us on Sunday evening and listen to our show. So it's a big thank you from us.
It is, yeah.
So I think that's
we give you that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. Or you get confused at the end of the show, one or the other.
Yeah.
Now, before we go over to the Castlebar thing, I just want to say as well, I was listening to a show during the week regarding, Max Igon was on it, and he was doing a great talk. We'll have to get Max on again. And he actually was talking about the desensitising of the dates. You know, the way people are going, oh, this date is going to happen, and that date's going to happen, and this is going to happen. And people get so fed up with it, and so fed up with the dates. And he's convinced that that's all part of the programming of desensitising people. So you will just switch off, you don't want to listen, you can't be bothered because you're hearing more dates. And all of a sudden, when something happens, that's when you're going to get cut out. So I think there's a bit of logic in Max's thinking about the desensitising, but we just have to kind of put our maximum filter on when it comes to dates and analyse it, and we have a logical approach to it. I think that's probably the best thing to do regarding anything that's coming up. But again, there's no harm talking about it, and no harm, saying, oh, they predict it's going to be this date, but we'll see what happens. So again, sit on the fence with it would be the best thing. Right, Steve?
Yes.
Castlebar.
It's a lovely place. If you're thinking of going for a holiday this year, you could. No, anyway. Yeah, seemingly the Gardaí's behaviour in Castlebar Court was absolutely disgraceful. A man stood up to defend himself, and they arrested him in the court. The video is on the OYM Facebook page, and they arrested Joe. His name is Joe Doocey, Doocey. They arrested Joe, and then they went off to his wife's place of employment. Now, seemingly his wife is not involved in any way, shape or form, but they arrested her also. We also have an update as and from the 26th of the month, where the Gardaí arrested Joe and his partner. And his partner is a woman who has never been in trouble in her life. They arrested Anne outside her place of work. They then drove her to a Garda station in Claremorris, a town almost an hour away. I think our Gardaí are famous for that. Despite her informing them that she really needed to use a toilet, seemingly their solution to that was to put some plastic on the seat, just in case she happened to soil herself or urinate in the car. They then questioned her for over 12 hours in matters that she knew absolutely nothing about. For a period of time, she was locked in, allegedly, in a filthy cell with a hole in the floor for a toilet, like she was some sort of animal/criminal. There was no solicitor present. The only solicitor that she was able to contact by phone told her she didn't need a solicitor, as it was only questioning, and she was well able to handle it herself. The detectives were sent from Dublin. She was finally released without any charge at about 1:30 in the AM, a full 12 hours after she'd been arrested. When she got home, there was a lovely email waiting for her from her employer, informing her that they were terminating her employment. Only in Ireland. That's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, the fact that
it is, yeah.
The fact that the woman had nothing to do with it.
Exactly, nothing to do whatsoever.
Now we did say, I did say, then she could probably bring her employer to court for unfair dismissal. But as you said, it may have been one of these job bridge type schemes where there's no real security at all. You just you're in there, you're at the mercy of whoever. So I mean, well, all we can say is, well, let's just hope that she can get sorted out anyway. But I mean, that's obviously the road the Gardaí are going down now. So does that mean that if one of us is stopped for a motoring offence, an alleged motoring offence, that they can say, okay, you've no tax in this car, but we have to go home now and arrest your wife and your child as well and get social services involved?
Well, obviously...
Is that the new road?
Well, this is what's happening. I don't know whether you've seen the story during the week, that a senior guard's son was caught in a cocaine factory, and they found cocaine to the value of 3 million, and he got a suspended sentence.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. That's what it says in the paper. Yeah, that's what it said. Now, that's what I've just read. It was on Facebook in an article in the newspaper.
Wow.
Like 3 million cocaine factory, senior guard's son, and he gets a suspended sentence.
Well, it was probably a first offence, you see.
Oh, of course.
But if that happened to you, well, they'd have to make an example out of you, or me, or anyone else.
Yeah, no, if you go into shop and robbed a loaf of bread for your family that you couldn't feed, you'd get jail.
And rightly so. Rightly so.
But if you have 3 million worth of cocaine, you'll be fine.
And a daddy who's a guard?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the daddy, that's the big thing.
A guard or a politician or, in someone else's pocket, happy days.
Welcome to corrupt Ireland. Cronyism is alive and well.
Someone John just put it there on the chat room. Geldof was correct. We are a banana republic. 100% agree with that.
I think we're a banana republic. I think it's even
banana.
worse than that.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is, as you probably heard, the Irish government decided to sell off 20% of Aer Lingus. Now, we had John Perkins on the show last year, the year before last, and he had a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and he talked about them strip mining the country because we couldn't pay the money back, and this is exactly what's happening at the moment. Now, also, I seen an article today in the Irish Independent that Noonan he's talking about the house prices and it's getting a bit wild and we're going to have to do something about it. Now, if you remember what Ben said, he said that Germany is booming at the moment and Angela Merkel wants to increase the interest rates. She wants to put them up. Now, the people who are just barely hanging on, paying the mortgages now with the interest rates at the moment, if that interest rate goes up, they're going to be pushed over the edge and there'll be more repossessions. And I think that's Noonan hinting to people saying the interest rate is going to go up. I reckon that's what it is.
Was Noonan not saying there recently that he... well, I didn't hear it myself, but my wife told me that he was on record saying that he was instructing the banks to reduce the interest rate.
Well, to be honest with you, if Germany's doing well and, Angela is in control, she has a bigger pair of balls than Kennedy. Kenny, I should say.
Look, that goes without saying. I think we know that anyway. She definitely she's running the show. But I mean, no, I heard that Noonan was saying that he was advocating that the banks should lower the interest rate because, well, I mean, look, you know as well as I do, whatever comes out of their mouths from this day forward is going to be pandering to the electorate because there's an election around the corner.
But see, I don't know about you, Steve, but I don't believe anything they say. I just don't believe. When I hear any of them talking, I just don't believe them. I just switch off. I
totally agree. I agree, but there was a list up there on Facebook, I seen it there recently, of all the things that they promised and all the things that they actually done, like removing benefits, cutting this, cutting that, removing, carers allowance, and all these sort of things that they actually done within the last 4/5 years in government. And the gas thing is, as we were just kind of chatting before we came on with Alan Laws, who's in the green room, rolling his own, that's a joke, but yeah, well, there are still people out there who are not connected. They're not plugged into the... I'm not going to say the matrix because they are plugged into the matrix, but they're not plugged into the alternative matrix, which is the likes of us and the likes of the Facebook and the website and all the other good Facebook pages like the NCM and etc. There's still people who are not plugged into that, so they don't really know what's going on. They think they do because they're still getting their information from Dennis O'Brien owned media.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I just don't believe him. But then Aer Lingus, now, there was an article that I was trying to read earlier on. I didn't get time to read. Claire Daly stood up and I think had to go at Enda Kenny because Claire Daly used to work for Aer Lingus. And the Aer Lingus staff are having a hell of a time up there. Now, they're still doing a great job, but they're having a hell of a time with the management. So, if you can give them your support, please give them your support. Now, the other thing that we have on the list here is last week we talked about the pain genie. We'll just go back to this for a minute, and we said we'd look at raising funds to get one for OYM where we can use it to help people with pain relief. And we have a long-time listener and supporter of OYM. The person knows who he is. His initial begins with A, and he's not in this country. He is in another country in Europe, and he phoned us during the week and he offered to actually buy a pain genie for OYM so we could actually go and do it. So a big thank you to this listener. He knows who he is, and we appreciate that, and it's going to help so many people, so thanks for that. And let us know what we can do. I'm sure we can organise something, and if you do come over to Ireland, we can have a meet up and have a chat. So a big thank you to that listener for offering to buy us the pain genie. We look forward to getting our hands on that, but we'll keep you posted on OYM anyway, and when it comes in and what's going on. The seminar will probably be the start of that. So if you can get to the seminar in Navan, Ardboyne Hotel, we're looking at the 21st of June, starting at 1 p.m. But if there's any change of plan, we'll let you know. We'll put the flyers up on Facebook and on the newsletter. Steve, how's your week?
Yeah, no, my week's been fine. Again, just kind of watching pretty much what you were saying there about what's going on, this thing going on in the Dáil, Dennis O'Brien with his injunctions, and it just amazed me when you hear Dennis O'Brien and he doesn't really want people knowing exactly what's going on, but there's kind of a lot of information floating around about Dennis. That you only have to go onto the internet, type his name into the likes of Wikipedia, and you can you see exactly why he doesn't want his his bank transactions and information's getting put out there, because according to what's on Wikipedia, now again, you take Wikipedia with a grain of salt, you really do. But just according to what I've seen there, he's one of the top 200 billionaires in the world, and his net worth seems to be 6.7 billion. That's according to Forbes, and that's supposed to be as of 2015. 6.7 billion US dollars.
You couldn't even spend that.
You couldn't spend that, and if you had multiple lifetimes. But it seemed he's supposed to be well educated too. He was educated in UCD and also in Boston College, so I'm guessing that's obviously in Boston. What else have we got here? Is like the stuff I knew he owned a couple of radio stations, but what I didn't realise that he owns 42 radio stations in 8 European countries, including News Talk, Today FM, 98 FM, Spin 103, etc., etc., etc. He's got his finger in so many pies that, and we said it before, that he doesn't even live here. He's a resident of Malta, obviously for tax reasons.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, it's monopoly, isn't it? It's monopoly money, really.
Oh, it is. But even his wealth, according to the Sunday Independent, their rich list of 2015, his fortune is approximately €6 billion. I know we said $6.7 billion, but 6 billion euro. He's the richest man in Ireland. He's also richer than the likes of Richard Branson, Bernie Ecclestone, Bernie, yeah,
Formula One.
Yeah, Donald Trump, Oprah Winfrey, as well as the Sultan. I thought Sultan. When you hear Sultan, you're thinking, "Wow, this guy's got a lot of money." But Dennis has even got more than him, and there's just so much about the man. And when you see him now being able to, at the drop of a hat, just kind of silence the media.
Yeah.
You kind of think, wow, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. There really is. And then I think he was having a pop. Was it him? Yeah, I think he was having a pop at Catherine Murphy, and seemingly Alan Dukes jumped in as well.
Yeah.
So,
but he can't silence her because she's Dáil privileges.
Yeah, and I think Alan Dukes is saying that she shouldn't be using her Dáil privileges for this sort of thing. Who does she think she is?
Padded envelope.
I reckon if the likes of Dennis O'Brien was to go down, I would see it like a the way you make a tower of playing cards. Well, I see Dennis at the top of the stack, and if he goes down, I'd say he will take all the cards with him, and the likes of the Alan Dukes and probably so many other people, he will bring them down, because I'd say he didn't get to where he is, by collecting his pennies or shining his pennies.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say he's again allegedly corrupt right to the core. And he obviously has a lot of information on a lot of other people as well, that they're willing to jump and defend him.
I think what we should do, Steve, we go into a padded envelope business. We'd probably make a fortune.
You would with the politicians.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, look, there's loads more things I was looking at during the week. It's a program that I came across. It's out there with Morgan Freeman called Through the Wormhole, and they're talking about DNA and all this. It's really, really great stuff. They're talking about alien DNA, and they're sending these weather balloons up, collecting samples at 16 miles up, and they're analysing them. And there's just what they're actually finding up there in the samples when they bring them down. They analyse them. It's actually a UK scientist who's doing all this, and it's phenomenal. And he says what's up there is coming in from outer space. It's passing through the system. It's falling to Earth in the rain, and it's getting into our skin. And he said some of these, I can't even remember the word he used, but there's these little tiny, minuscule particles that are getting into our skin, and they're replicating and they're changing our DNA. So it's a fascinating stuff. But if anyone gets a chance, check it out on YouTube. I think that's where I found it. Anyway, Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. Brilliant little program there. Anyway, there's loads more that I was looking at during the week, but there's no point in going into now for time. How's your week?
Just a couple of things to talk about. We talk about the cashless society, and that's where you want to go, the mark of the beast. And apparently, I think 1/3 of Australians, I think that was the figure, said they'd agreed to be microchipped, which is unbelievable. But on a website called yournewswire.com, it says here that Denmark may become the first country in the world to ban cash. The proposal to ban all cash transactions is being introduced ahead of the Danish election in September, in the hope that cash will be phased out as early as 2016. Digital transactions are very popular in Denmark, with a third of all Danish citizens using the Danske Bank app, mobile pay, or pay for services and transactions. It's unlikely that the new proposals to ban all cash transactions will be met with any opposition. So we're going down that road to cashless society. It's the totalitarian tiptoe, bit by bit, country by country, introducing different things and just doing the jigsaw bit, putting in the pieces. The other thing is that during the week we got some organic Celtic salt from Ancient Purity, Clive de Carl's website, and I have to say, it's great. I'm not saying I've just put it on food.
It's
like normal
bloody
salt.
strong.
Is it
like normal salt?
No, I didn't. Well, you can taste it all right, but
Would you generally use salt though?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I see. I don't.
I
don't use salt at all.
Yeah.
And when we had some chips during the week, and I said, great, get out the thing, and I just got a pinch, and I pinched it over the chips. But Jesus, it's strong stuff.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's good stuff. It's magnesium.
Yeah.
It has all the benefits in it. It's sea salt.
Yeah, I think I might just have a bath in it or something. But geez, if anyone does get it, or if you've tried it, you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It is fairly strong, and you want to be careful.
Yeah, okay, but it's cheap, so you can do it. Now, the last thing before we bring in Alan is that I've just checked the web stats for May. So this month alone, right? And this month alone on the OYM is 346,000. That's 14,000 hits a day.
Yeah, 10,000 of them are me.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a few robots and hackers and stuff, but I mean that's not too bad for
not too shabby at all.
Not too shabby at all.
From the two boys in the Midlands.
That's pretty good. Anyway, we bring our guest in because I know Alan will probably be itching to talk about the things that we were talking about just earlier on. So good evening, Alan. How are you doing?
Good evening, and good evening, Steve.
Hi, Alan.
Okay, Alan, thanks for coming on. You've been on the show before, but what we do is just do a quick bio, 5 minutes, of who you are and what group you're associated with, so people who haven't heard the last show, they'll know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm Alan Laws. I'm 52 years of age. I live here in Navan, and one of the founding members of the National Citizens Movement there. At 52, you're saying, what are you getting involved in politics? I mean, it's only a couple of years ago that I got involved in politics, and like everybody else, I looked at our country being driven over the cliffs by Fianna Fáil back in 2008. And then when I seen the opposition to that, and I looked at the unions in particular doing nothing and allowing it to happen, you had to get involved. And I think a lot of people involved in politics now, whether it be with direct democracy, like Ben Gilroy's people, all haven't been involved in politics before. Now, I was with People Before Profit for a very short time, and I left them. No row, I just left them. I was going in a different direction, so all the people there are nice people, have nothing but compliments to give them. But I felt I had to go in a different direction than they were. So that's where I am. But I think people like myself, Alan, there's lots of people like myself now that you see on the streets at the mass protest that we've seen that have never had an interest maybe in politics before, that has come to it and decided to get involved because they've seen what happened to our country. Our country has been robbed. It's been raped, basically. And in fairness, there's a few good journalists out there still telling stories that should be told, and they're facts. A fact that Keith Holland came out with, I think, this week was to say that, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, you might have seen it yourself. I think it was that 200,000 under 25s had left the country since the start of the crash.
Yeah, it was something like that. That's right, yeah.
Something like that figure. Now, you think, we're not that big a country. 4.5 million people is not that big. To have 200,000 under 25s leave the country, that's astounding.
It is.
For that age group. It's our youngest and our best are leaving. And look, if we are where we are today, I do think, though, Alan, Dennis O'Brien now has taken one step too far. I think he's international friends, he's international business partners. Let's remember, this guy is out to make money, and Jesus, doesn't he make lots of it? But he's out to make money. His international business partners now will not like the idea that he's being seen in Ireland, because people see him as a pariah in Ireland. That's a fact. Irish people see him as a pariah. feeding off the suffering of the Irish people. Now, he's taken a step too far now when he tries to intimidate Catherine Murphy by taking legal action against her, tries to dictate what we should say or not say in the Irish Parliament. Now, I think he's gone one step too far. And just as I was listening to the two of you talking there, I went on to Fox News. Now, I know Fox News people listening to you wouldn't believe a lot of what Fox News does. But just since they did report about Dennis O'Brien, Fox News had a report about Dennis O'Brien. They had a report how he's a big donator to the Clintons. They had a report about his involvement in Haiti. They had a report about how much money he's made after the earthquake in Haiti. They had all of that. So tweets were trending on Fox News just now about Hillary Clinton's emails. And of course, the American interest there is what happened in Libya. The Republicans' interest, I should say. So I just tweeted there to them. Because the emails now are being made public. Wouldn't it be nice to see, is there any to Dennis? Because Dennis is a huge financial contributor to the Clintons.
Yeah.
And then I just tweeted it onto Fox News to see. Now, what I'll be doing over the next while, and I did it straight away when Dennis got his injunction against RTE, the tweets I've been sending out now, I've been tweeting it to Channel 4, to BBC, to Euronews, to France 24, and they are actually taking an interest. Now, I'm not saying it's because of me. It's a big international story as well. But I think the more we put it out there internationally, I think Dennis is after making a miscalculation on this one. And I think this one, I would love it. And I know there's lots of people in different groups on the left-hand side of politics in Ireland. But you think, Alan, and I'd make this of Catherine Murphy, and I've never met the girl personally, but I've lots of admiration for her. I'd love Catherine to call a protest outside both independent newspapers and outside News Talk. One of the leading radio station and the leading newspaper in this country. If you could imagine, I think if Catherine gave enough notice to people, if Catherine gave that enough time, Brian will feel the wrath of the Irish people. And he will know that we will not allow him, no matter how much money he has, interfere and try to interrupt, try to interfere and try to buy his way into our democracy. If he has a case to put forward, let him move from Malta, move back to Ireland like the rest of us Irish citizens and put his case in front of us. He hides over there. I said outside RTE recently, I was at a protest over there and I made a speech, and it was after Paul Murphy, as you know, got grilled on RTE. And I asked RTE at the time, you know, wouldn't it be great if Dennis was invited in to be grilled by RTE? Wouldn't it be great if he came on air to be grilled by a proper investigative journalist to ask the right questions, not questions that would be emailed to him in advance? You know, and another interesting post from Catherine Murphy tonight. I was looking on Twitter again, and Catherine says that the contents of the letter that Dennis has supposed to have sent to her hasn't arrived with her yet the newspapers were able to show a clip of it. Now, how is that?
Brilliant.
Did Dennis give it to the newspapers first? Try to use his newspapers and his influence with the media to put Catherine even under more pressure? And I would just appeal to Catherine. Call that protest. I'd imagine, Alan. I mean, of all the politicians now at this moment, the one that connects most with the water issue and Irish water right now is Catherine Murphy.
Yeah.
And I think all of us from all the groups would admit that. People before profit would admit it. AAA would admit it. We'd all admit it, that is. And if Catherine listens to this station or has sent a copy of it, I'd ask her to consider, because I think it will even outstrip the protest we've seen with Right to Water so far. Because again, the country, like you say, is being asset stripped. Definitely. You mentioned Aer Lingus. Do you want to ask? Sorry, I'll stop for a second. Go on, Al.
No, that's okay. No, I totally agree with you there. I think we just said it there earlier about Catherine using a dual privilege to actually put the information, you know, to expose it, and Alan Duke's turned around and given out saying that she shouldn't be doing that. I mean, for Dennis O'Brien to actually have the audacity and the arrogance being a tax exile, to actually try and control the Irish government. I mean, the fact, we were talking before we went live, and Brian Cowan is now working for Dennis O'Brien. I mean, these people are, my own personal opinion, not OYM's, they're parasites. They really are parasites. I mean, how low can these people go for this paper money that actually has no value? I mean, how low does their greed go? How many more people have to be evicted? And how many more people have to commit suicide for these people to get it? Or is it just purely greed and selfishness and arrogance from them?
Just the greed, no bounds. And I'd ask people to look at the influence Rupert Murdoch had in Britain. And that influence was huge. Again, he owned lots of media organisations in Britain. And he used them media organisations before elections to side with one party or another. He had prime ministers knocking at his door, begging him to support them before elections. But even him, he took a step too far as well and thought he could break the law, phone tapped people, like poor families, Millie Dowler's family. And that really then broke him in England in the sense that the British people rose up and he wouldn't have any more. Now, he still has a major influence. He still has Sky. He closed down one newspaper, but he still has the others. But he went one step too far, and I think he got a bloody nose. But you look at, like you've just said, we had prime ministers knocking at his door. I'd ask Irish people, what would they do, or what would they think if Rupert Murdoch had hired Tony Blair? The British people would never stand for it. Yet we know for a fact that Dennis has strong, very strong links with Fianna Gael. And now he has the ex-Prime Minister of Fianna Fáil working for him. Now, what is he doing that for? Now, that has to be, we try to run business on an ethical basis. That has to be not ethical to do that. A Prime Minister of a company working for a person who's gaining government contracts by the dozen. That cannot be right. Yeah. But it's not right in anybody's mind.
No, it's not. It's not ethical though, because when you work in the corporate world, there's no such thing as playing fair. It's dog eat dog. That's the way it works. And Dennis O'Brien is no different. He's a businessman, and he'll pay what he has to pay and do what he has to do to get what he wants. And if somebody doesn't toe the rope, as we were talking, without going into detail before the radio, before we went live, you don't get a higher up in government unless you have a skeleton in the cupboard, maybe a few. And maybe we have a few politicians that have skeletons in the cupboard. And Dennis O'Brien, there's no problem to him hiring a detective and doing a bit of work and having some, and then sending a few photos or whatever in a padded envelope to these particular TDs and going, we know what's going on, and if you don't do what you're told, this is going to go in the papers because I control the media.
Yeah,
I'm just saying allegedly. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm just saying that could be. You see this going on in the movies, and I'm sure it goes on in real time as well.
Oh, it does. But like you say, I mean, the list that he owns is just unreal. It's unhealthy. It's unethical for one man to own so much. I mean, and then Enda Kenny seemingly has disappeared this weekend anyway. Or this week nearly, because he hasn't commented on anything I think that Catherine Murphy has been saying. He's out of touch with the public, not for the first time. You'd probably find Lord Lucan quicker than you'd find Enda Kenny today, and it's just astounding. I mean, let's face it, just say, Alan, let's be non-biased here for a second. I'd ask, there's people within Fianna Fáil or Fianna Gael, right? And while the politicians that's in Leinster House, I have nothing but contempt for what they've done. But there's maybe misguided people listening to us tonight that are members of Fianna Fáil and Fianna Gael. And I'd ask them really to examine their conscience. Think of them 200,000 people, young people under 25 that left the country. Think of the people that you've been just talking about, Alan, if they put up the interest rates of being forced out of our homes. And if they want to just check their facts, this is not Alan Laws or Alan James and Steve telling them this. Just contact, like I've said this many times, look at Father McVerry's website to ask about homelessness. Look at what Focus Ireland have been saying over and over and over again. It's the worst crisis ever. If you don't believe me and Alan, that's fair enough. But look at them. They're facts. We've the worst homeless crisis in this country that we've ever seen. And yet, what the government are trying to do now is they're trying to make promises before the next election. And Alan, I work in the public service. I work in the hospitals. And people might disagree with me now. And some may, and they may well do. But being honest with you, Alan, I think there's other people that need a real hand more than my pay rise today. I think there's people that's been evicted on their homes. If there's money to be given, let's always, as a society, try to help the weakest within it. I've been lucky, Alan. I'm working. I'm still angry that my pay was cut. Of course I am. And like all other trade unionists, I'm angry that our union abandoned us. But as priorities go now, we've had a man, Jonathan Corrigan, die on the streets this year. Jonathan Corrigan. We had him die on the streets. We have Father McVerry in Focus Ireland telling us the worst crisis ever they've seen. And we have a Fine Gael and Labour government offering pay rises in the public service and offering higher earners tax relief coming up to the next budget. I mean, geez, that just infuriates me.
I can't believe that we're going to have another 5 years. I mean, the trouble is that, as we were kind of talking before we went live, you know, on the left, I mean, it doesn't matter, left, right, centre. I don't care what side you're on, as long as it's fairness for the people and you know. But our morals, you know, we have morals. That's what it is, Alan. We all have morals. These people at the top don't have any morals. They sold their soul to Satan a long time ago. And they do anything for the money, for the fame, or, you know, whatever it is they want. They sold it. They'll get their 7 years of their success. Then after that, that's it. The soul's gone down. But listen, there's a loads that we have to talk about, and we could talk about, you know, the Dennis Bryan and the Catherine Murphy issue. But I do want to talk to you about, and we have questions coming in as well. But we do want to talk about the people's debate, because I was there, you were there, Ben was there. You got up and you spoke as well. Tell us what your thoughts were from going in, seeing the kind of sound check with the clapping and all that kind of stuff, and then, you know, take it from there.
Well, I think Ben put his finger on it best. I think I was seeing it after a message he said after the People's Debate, when he said the Fine Gael crowd were so organised to clap any time Regina opened her mouth. I think she coughed one of the times and they clapped. That's how organised it was. It wasn't spontaneous. Like if Ben said something, he got an applause because people agreed with him. There's no huge crowd in the crowd with Ben. There might have been a few supporters, but the rest were ordinary people and made up of ordinary people. And it just, what you do, look, in some ways of admiration for Vincent Browne, and he's one of the only interviewers that kind of goes after them a little bit. He said a lot of things to Regina Doherty that we would have said. Yeah. You know, and so fair play to him for that. The only problem I'd have is, now just even look at direct democracy, and ourselves, and we talk about the Irish Democratic Party as well, right? There's three of the newest parties in the state. And what I'd love to see Vincent Browne do, and I've sent a few posts to him asking to get on the panel, and we haven't been on the panel. And what happens is then, you know, you get one opportunity to speak at a show like that, and one opportunity only. And you're not able to express, like there was, for example, I worked as a guard in Kells, Alan, I think I told you before, and I was a guard of reserve. And one of the Fianna Fáilers got up and he lambasted Fine Gael for the cutbacks in the guards. And I wanted to get in on it, because basically what I wanted to tell him was, during my duty as a guard of reserve in Kells Station itself, right, I used to go in every second Sunday. And some of the Sundays I went in, the guards hadn't got a car. They had zero car to cover the whole area. And I just wanted to remind that guy that was during Fianna Fáil's time in power, that happened. So it's not that Fine Gael have just continued on, as you know, Alan, what Fianna Fáil did. So you'd love them to get back. So I'd love to see Vincent Browne. For example, Renewa is a new party. Now let's face it, like us, like Direct Democracy and like the Irish Democratic Party, they don't have a TD, a councillor, or anybody else. Because Lucinda wasn't elected as a Renewa party person. She was elected as a Fine Gael person. But yeah, the airwaves open up for her. Vincent has her on. He gives her a full show, I think. All newspapers have lots of posts coming and going every day. Now you look at the likes of the Irish Democratic Party, you look at Direct Democracy, and look at us. We get scraps from the table. Yeah. We get one-liners. And that's all we get to say. And all the media. And I try to tweet things to Vincent Browne. I'll give you another angle I've tried to use at the moment. And it's not an angle, actually. It's a very valid point. I've spoken to Brendan Ogle and I brought a video out about the trade unions. And I think Brendan Ogle, as a trade unionist, does a good job. I'm an ex-shop steward for 20 years. The guy tries his best. Their union opposed property tax, their union opposed water rates, and their union tried to fight against pay cuts to their members. Now, they lost and they were outvoted by people within ICTU. But people in general don't understand the rules of ICTU, Alan. And what I tried to propose to Brendan Ogle, and I have, and I'm looking to have a discussion further with him, is that, you see, the Labour Party have a stranglehold over the biggest union in the country, SIPTU. They have a stranglehold over ICTU. They're owned by Labour. Now, I don't want the unions to be owned by any party, Sinn Féin, anybody else. They should be owned by their own members. That's it. So I said to Brendan, you see, I'm a SIPTU member, Alan, but the rules of ICTU, which is the governing body of trade unions in Ireland, and all the other unions affiliate to ICTU. So therefore, it's the monopoly, you see, Alan.
Yeah.
I cannot leave SIPTU and join Unite, because under ICTU rules, Unite wouldn't be allowed to take me. And I could tell you now, Alan, my hospital would, hundreds of members would leave SIPTU tomorrow, given the opportunity. And I know thousands of members in the Dublin area who would do the same. So I asked Brendan, and the question I asked him, and I told him I admire what he's doing. I asked him, Brendan, please leave ICTU. If Brendan Ogle and Unite leave ICTU, we will take back all, I'm telling you, Alan, there would be a flood of members that would run into Unite and leave SIPTU. And SIPTU then would be barren.
Well, that's good. I mean, it'd be good to...
I was saying to Brendan, and I didn't mean to be critical. Saying to Brendan is, like, we all know, Alan, we need a revolution in politics. We all know that.
Yeah.
But we also need a revolution in trade unionism. And that's the key to the revolution. And I'm saying, Brendan, you have the key to the door. Please open it. I've had, since I put out a video, Alan, I've had Impact members contact me. I've had bus workers contact me. I've lots of different union people contact me who agree with me. I'm hoping to have a meeting with Brendan to show him that this is not just Alan Lawes' point of view. It's a much wider view. And it's actually under European law, Alan. And again, the problem we have is money. Now, we can do it both ways with Brendan. That's anti-competition. And we're told you can't be anti-competition in Europe anymore, can you, Alan?
Well, look, monopolising the market, that seems to, look, that's all, you can forget about that, because Dennis O'Brien is doing that. I mean, you're supposed to send out a tender for a contract, and that never happened. Siemens offered, apparently, the meters for free. And the contract, Phil Hogan didn't go for that, and he got Dennis O'Brien. You know, I mean, the whole kind of monopolising the market, I mean, again, it's the brown envelopes.
Oh yeah, and to say that, I'll give you an example of that with SIPTU, and I've brought this up many times, that they had a fund there called the SIPTU Slush Fund worth 5.4 million. I think I brought it up in your show before, but just to say quickly, they had it as a party fund. And the party they had 75 trips around the world. And the lads partied. And they brought some HSE officials with them as well. And their wives to party. In Las Vegas, in Sydney, Australia, in Denmark, in London, in Texas. All over the world. Right? Now, I would suggest to you, a lot of leading shop stewards might have been going on them trips. Because I've asked that question in a branch meeting from my union representative, Paul Bell, who closed the branch meeting. He wouldn't allow any other business on the night I asked at an AGM. Because I want to know who went on them trips, because we find out who went on them trips. These are the guys that are being looked after to take the unions out of our hands. And that's the way I see it. And you're quite right. And that was 5.4 million of a fund. And Jack O'Connor says he now knew nothing about it, which is amazing. So he's either incompetent or he knows quite well about it.
Oh, you can be guaranteed he probably knows about it. But just touching base on the people's debate, let's just go back to that for a minute. Now, Dominic Hannigan was there along with Regina. And how did you feel the overall the feedback from the crowd? I mean, apart from Regina insulting the people, and because they said they're saying about how affluent County Meath was, and then Regina turned around and said, well, that's not true. You just have to look at the audience, and everybody kind of looked at her, and said a few things under the breath.
Well, again, you put the finger on it a while ago. You said arrogant. They are the most arrogant government that arrogant and cruel government that I've ever known. And funnily enough, and of course, the water issue didn't come up that night. The water issue, which is the biggest issue facing a lot of people, it's why we're all doing what we're doing, didn't come up that night. Because I remember Seamus MacDonald was sitting behind me from the Workers' Party, and Seamus was trying to shout, bring it up. It never came up.
Yeah, no, it didn't come up at all. It's just the arrogance. And then, as Ben said, when he started talking about the deficit, well, number one, they don't have a clue about how money works because they're talking about deficit. Number two, when they were saying that, the people really sacrificed because we had to do this. And Ben said, well, they weren't given the choice. You did it without asking the people. And she said, yes, you're right. And then Ben said, well, that's not democracy. She obviously didn't get the concept of democracy. Now, we have a few questions in, Alan, so we're going to go over to Steve, and Steve's going to go through the questions with you.
Work away, Steve.
Right, well, I've got a question for you. Just to kind of bring it to people's attention as to where exactly Alan Laws is coming from, because just before we went live, you did say that you had been kind of out on the street, knocking on some doors, talking to some people. And I just wondering, could you just share with the people who are listening this evening what the general consensus is when you speak to people on the street about what's going on in the country today? And if you could just mention the story that you told us about the chap who you knocked on his door, but he didn't actually use the internet, so therefore he was relying on the other media for his information.
Yeah, Steve, we went around the doors, of course, in Carlow, Kilkenny, because Elizabeth Huron stood for us in Carlow in Kilkenny. So we knocked on many doors and talked to people. And that particular gentleman, all right, we knocked on his door. He came out. He would be on the same side of the fence as the rest of us. It'd be anti-water charges and all the rest. So we got into a conversation and we found that we had a lot in common. Again, he was disgusted with what this government are doing. He'd be well in tuned with Dennis O'Brien, but when I mentioned that he's on Facebook, because I wanted him to, since he was interested, I wanted to direct him to certain websites that maybe he can get more information. And that's when he said to me, well, I don't really go on Facebook. And he said to me that his son puts his photographs of his dinner up on Facebook, but I mean, that's all. And I had a giggle with him, but I just did say to him, I said, you do know what Catherine Murphy now was talking about in the Dial, that was actually on Facebook and on social media for at least 2 years plus before Catherine started bringing it up in the Dial. And I told him, that's where the information is so invaluable. It happens so quick. So for an education for all of ourselves, it is a good tool to keep an eye on social media because of what we've been talking about. He knew himself he couldn't trust what he's seeing on RTE News. He knew himself that he couldn't trust when he picked up the Irish Independent, but yet he wasn't giving himself an avenue for getting real, up-to-date information. So hopefully, after engaging with him, we were able to do that, We talked to other people. Again, I mean, this story comes over and over and over again, Alan, when the media tells us we're all doing better. Look, people have work. Don't get me wrong. There is new people at work, like you said earlier, a lot of them in job search schemes and job bridge schemes and all these schemes, right? But there's also a lot of them. I think the last statistic that came out from the Central Statistics Office said that over, I think it was, again, 400,000 people in the workforce is earning under €12 an hour. Now, you see, that stipulation, and people think, if you earn €12 an hour and you work 39 hours a week and they're adding it up. But you see, what they forget is, a lot of the people earning €12 an hour do not have a 39 hour a week job. they have 0-hour contracts, like you've seen with the Dunn Stores dispute.
That's right,
So
yeah.
this is the small amount of money that people are earning. So you might see them on the streets going to work because they're trying to survive. But now we have the working poor, and we have lots of working poor, and they just, Alan, again, from talking to similar people like ourselves, and because we put websites out there and we talk about evictions and we talk about homelessness, we get contacted by a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's in really, really, frightening positions. And the reason I talked on the People's Debate about the council was that there's a woman here in Navan, and the woman is so distressed and suffering from depression, from mental health problems, and the woman just says to me, Alan, I just want out. For my own mental health, I cannot cope anymore. I just can't. I want to walk out of my house. And that's what she wants to do. The house is in disarray. She has no money to do it up. And she wants to leave. And I said, is that truly what you want? She said, yes. So she's a family of 3. She's disabled. She can't walk. Right? So what we were trying to do when I got the Simon community to help me was to have a meeting with the council. She wanted to hand back the keys. And she wanted to be able to claim rent allowance. Hang back the keys on Monday, claim rent allowance on Tuesday. And they know of it. We got letters from the bank telling them that they're in the process of repossession. And still, the council will not talk to that woman until her children have slept on the streets. That's why I brought up that particular issue. And that is still the stand now. And it worries me. And I say this to any councillor who's listening, Sinn Féin included. Do you see, I think what should happen is that I don't know who makes this decision, whether it's the decision of the council officials or whether it's the decision of the county council itself. But I asked all the councillors to go in and change this. And if it can't be changed, the council official who's making that decision should be named. You can't. How can we allow nameless people put children onto our streets?
Well, what's the logic? What's the logic, Alan? I mean, just think, it's very hard to put yourself in this person's shoes, right? But what's the logic to have somebody to be sleeping on the streets before you give them a house?
Well, again, there's so many arguments, like you say to that. I mean, humanitarian wise, how can we put children at risk like that? We're after our history, Alan and Steve, after history of this country, when children were put at risk and they weren't helped for years, decades in fact, when no one would help them. Now here we are again, and we have an official arm of government saying openly and not being challenged. I didn't see any of the Sinn Féin councillors get up and support me and say, I'll handle that tomorrow. Because I tell you what I think happens in these cases, Alan. Because of my experience as a shop steward, I'll tell you what I think happens. I think happens when you're a county councillor, no matter what party, for a few years, what happens is you get to know all the officials. So some days, all right, the councillors write letters on this subject and that subject and the other subject, you see? And they go through the official routine of writing letters to him and her and that and the other, right? And what they don't want to do, you see, they have personal relationships then develop between councillors and between officials. Do you see? And when it happens then, you see, what the councillors like to have in their back pocket is, well, I know Alan very well, and see, me mate John now is up for eviction. Maybe I'll give him a call and he'll help him.
Yeah.
If you, I suggest, Alan, and if you name the officials who's taken the decision to leave kids on the streets, if you name them officials, you see, that relationship is gone. Well, then the council officials will do nothing for the councillors anymore.
I agree with you on that, because I think, number one, I'm curious to find out, how do you become a councillor? Can you become a councillor and not be tied to any party, number one? And number two, I would like to know, say, a local website or website where you can say, right, these are the people who are the councillors of this county, and these are the people making the decisions, and name and shame them. And if these people are the people who are making them decisions, then let everybody know in the county that this person is putting a family on the streets for his own interest. He's no morals.
All that is, Alan, is just accountability. That's what people are crying out for from all the political parties, is accountability. We had a banking crisis, no one's accountable.
Yeah. Well, that's what we need. Steve has more questions for you there, Alan.
No, well, I just wanted to jump in with a comment there. That chap in Navan, what's his name? You probably know him. He was up on the poster there about 2 weeks ago. His old election poster, but this time I had vote yes. Damien English, yeah. I remember he was coming out of I think it was the football grounds in Navan, and someone challenged him before that he was one of the ones.
Our friend Derek from Dublin says
it was Derek, was it?
Yeah, I was with Derek that day.
All right. But even the likes of that, I mean, he was challenged that day about, voting for this and putting people on the streets and all this sort of stuff. And again, he smiled his whole way through it. But I mean, he was pretty much named and shamed. But still today, he's still there doing his job. He's still going to obviously go for re-election next year. And no doubt he'd probably get in because he'd pander to the
The only thing we can do, Alan, is that anybody that's interested, in standing for election now, the one thing we can equal all of them to is footwear, is shoe leather. I can knock on as many doors as Damien English, and that's what I can do. So that's what I have to try to do, Alan. I have to try to knock on as many doors as him.
Okay, well,
I want money for posters or flyers
yeah.
or ads and papers like the rest of them.
Yeah.
But I can wear out as much shoe leather as they do and just knock on everybody's doors and try to get them to engage.
Okay, so why can't we do something like, and I'm just throwing this idea out there, right? If there's no website there at the moment, why can't we set up a website on a poor county basis and say, these are the councillors on a poor county basis, or whatever. I'm not too sure the demographic of how it works regarding councillors. I know it's not working the way it should do anyway. And I would like to know how you get to be a councillor where you're not tied to any party at all. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you have Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Labour and Sinn Féin councillors, they're mini-me's of the bigger parties. So of course they're going to tie the rope because they're all institutionalised and it's all my mate this and my mate that, brown envelopes and everything else. So there should be a website there on a poor county basis, and we'll say who the councillors are, when they went in, the things that they agreed to, the things they didn't agree to, and name and shame who they are, put their photo up and let people know. And then when it comes about, people say you can actually point them to the website and say who they are. And obviously when the local elections come about, I mean, I did say, we had a councillor from the local area knock on my door, and he said, there's local elections, and he was from a Fianna Fáil party. And somebody had told me, actually a person that you and me know, Steve, had told the two of us. Now, I don't know how true this is, but he did say to us, he said that our kind of area was known as the most corrupt in Ireland, right? Because of the people involved. But nothing can be done until these people move on. But I said it to this guy, and his face just dropped, and he just walked away from the door. And to me, that kind of proved to me that, what I said was near enough bang on the money. Yeah. And by me saying that, I'm hoping that he's thinking now that, man, people are talking, there's something going on, what's going on? Am I going to get into trouble?
Here is make an appeal to some of your listeners is that we know, and I know, Alan, that there's lots of people out there that have no faith in any party whatsoever, including mine, let's be honest. There's a lot of people out there, and I'm just going to talk to them because they feel they can do nothing in the next election. I feel they can. What I'd ask them to do is to go out and campaign against the parties who damage this country. Now, they don't have to say to vote for the National Citizens Movement or People Before Profit or AAA or Sinn Féin or whatever their choice may be, but just their listeners, and I cannot blame them for not having any faith in political parties looking at our history, but they can still get involved in the election, because what they can do, and they don't have to wear the political banner and do it, what they can do, they can start knocking on doors and reminding people what the Labour Party did to us, what Fianna Fáil did to us, what Fine Gael did to us, and don't believe anything out of new, because there's nothing new about them. And so they can play a major part in this. They can do it their own way. They don't carry any banner with us. Leave it to the people to decide who they want to vote for the rest of us. And go out there and campaign against the people that is damaging this country worst in our lifetime. And that's what they can do, and they can play a very, very important role in this election.
Definitely. Steve.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is that a phone going
I'm
off?
just hearing the vibrating noise.
All right.
It's not me.
It's not me.
It was my phone vibrating. Sorry, fellas.
All right.
It's not vibrating anymore.
That's how sensitive our technology
Wow.
is. Wow. Steve.
Yeah. Snowy just put something up in the chat there earlier, and this is something that was it was said to me during the week, and we have the right man now in the right place to put it to bed. Seemingly, some people were burning their bills. Just touching on Irish Water for a second. Some people were burning the bills, some people were doing the return to sender. But seemingly, it's now been put up that the people who do the return to sender, the Irish Water are, even without a signature or without the pack being opened, they're seeing that as, well, you've sent it back, so they're now putting you up on their system as a customer and sending you out the bills. What would you suggest, Alan, would be the most appropriate way to deal with the bills? Because I know some people they're only starting to get them now. What would you suggest? Would you suggest burn your bills? Would you suggest return to sender? Or would you suggest, as a woman done recently, ring them up and challenge them and just, I have the link here, but it's just ring them up and challenge them and just pretty much say, I just have it here. The woman, she got the bill, she said she never registered. She rang them up and she asked for a copy of the application form. They told her that they don't send out copies. She stated the Data Protection Act allows me to access all data held on me. She was put on hold. When the chap returned, he told her that they've just investigated my account, and oh dear, there's an error. She's not registered, nor is my husband. There is no person registered at this address. So they're just pretty much sending out the bills willy-nilly as they like. The woman said she won't be paying. She said she's not registered, nor is she a customer. So she asked, She asked, will they continue to unlawfully use her information? They said, Irish Water said no. She asked, would she receive any further correspondence from Irish Water? And they said no. So now she said she's going off now to report the unlawful use of her data to the Data Protection Commissioner. Would that be a road that people should go down, maybe?
Well, I just say congratulations to that lady for having the gall and the guts to get on the phone and challenge these chancers. And chancers is what they are. And we all know it's nothing new to you, Steve, that these guys would lie. Irish Water people would lie. It's nothing new. Look, I don't like telling people what's right and wrong and which is the best way to protest. Look, the thing is, the one thing we're all determined to do is not to pay. That to me is the most important thing. If people like to burn their bills and get a community spirit going, and it gets good solidarity going within communities when they all come out together and see a mass fire of bills. It creates that solidarity, feeling of solidarity, and we always work better as a group than we do as an individual. But that lady showed, with her intelligence and with her gall and her guts, that she is now going to follow that up by the sounds of it. I'd imagine by just listening to the way you've read that out, that lady will go the full way with that. And it might have consequences, hopefully, for Irish Water under the Data Protection Act. But like Alan and Steve, I don't want to tell people what's the right way and what's the wrong way. Resistance to Irish Water is the right thing to do. And you go ahead and do it whichever way you think is the best way to do it. And we support you anyway. The most important thing is not to pay, is to try to bankrupt these crowd. This is the most important thing.
Excellent. Okay. I know you said earlier, Alan, that you kind of jumped into politics at a late stage.
Yeah.
And, I know you also said that you were involved in the unions as a shop steward, and I've been down that road myself. I've done it for a little while, and I know when you're kind of involved in the unions as a shop steward, it's a thankless job, and you have to have big cojones, as they say. But were you kind of always, because you seem, I'm not going to say outspoken, but you seem to, where you're going. You seem to, what is the right road to be on.
I think I told you this story before, Steve, but I'll tell you quickly again. Again, why did I become so loyal to the trade union movement? I was back in the 80s. There was a recession. They were making cutbacks in the public service again. I just bought me house. I was on bridge and loan, and I'd moved into to my family, and I got given my P45. And I was in real trouble, Steve. I was in real trouble. I was going to lose my job, lose my house, and I was really in a serious situation. So what happened back then was the union, as a union, responding to an economic crisis, signed a deal with the government. And the first thing they did was no more public servants to be laid off. So that saved my job. And we even got we got a bit of tax relief, I think, that year, and 1% rise. The first programme for national recovery was born, right? It was in Charlie Hottie's area, right? But that made me loyal to a union. They saved me job, Steve, and they saved me house. So I became a loyal servant. So as a loyal servant to something that you believed in, because when you do a job you believe in, you do it a little bit better. And back in them days, we were very badly paid. I think my mortgage was something like €250 a month, and my wages was 93 quid a week. And that's what I had to balance out. And I had one child moving into the house. That's the way it worked out. But look, you had a union that tried then. We won some, we lost some. You know, and that was fine by me. I felt when I made a phone call to the Liberty Hall, the backup was there. Now, there were some issues, of course, like in a democracy, you agree and disagree on different things. And I have no problem with democracy. I have no problem walking into a room full of people, shop stewards, putting an idea forward and people voting against it. That is democracy. So that happened to me as well along the way. But as I went further up through the ranks, and I was the delegate to the conferences you see in Tralee, I was one of them. I was actually trustee of the health services branch now that's there. And I gained certain positions. And each position, each step you take up the ladder, you ask more intrusive questions. So, of course, when certain people then would ring me and say to me, look, there'll be a vote coming up on the next national agreement. And I'd get a phone call from Liberty Hall and they'd say, listen, will your lads vote yes to this? And I said, well, I don't think so. I think their view is no. Will you make them vote yes? I stood for an election, a democratic election within the union. I challenged the guy that was sitting there for donkey's years. Again, one of the guys, Jack Kelly's his name, he's involved in that SIP2 slush fund. I challenged him for his chairmanship of the health services branch. And I got a phone call at home off the other guy that's involved in the slush fund of the health services branch, telling me it wouldn't be in my future's interest to challenge this guy. Now, Alan and Steve, you know what I did. I challenged them anyway. But it meant then that my career, you could say, within the union was totally finished because I wasn't belonging to a democratic organisation. I found out that I was belonging to an organisation that wanted people in positions like me. There was shop stewards. I was a senior shop steward. I was onto the branch of the health services branch in SIP2. I was moving up as trustee. I was going delegate to conference. They wanted a person, when they picked up the phone and said, Alan, you vote yes, they wanted someone to say yes. Unfortunately, I said no, because I believe I was doing what my members wanted, not what the guy from upstairs wanted. And that's all. Yeah. And, of course, I was dropped, and then I went out of circulation then, very, very quickly.
Yeah, I found that as well, Alan. Just sorry for interrupting you. I found that as well when I was in there. That you would get the memo from head office saying this is something coming up. This is the way we want the members to vote, and you know, if they need persuading, tell them this, that, and the other. But yeah, when it went against my moral grain, if you like, because when I would say I'd put it to the people and say, well, this is what management want and this is why they want it. You know, then people could see it from the other side, and a lot of people, you know, they kind of figured out very, very quickly that management and the unions, you know, and the government, they were all in the same bed.
Yeah. I mean, Alan, Steve, and like, there was some wage deals that came in that I said yes, because I looked at the deal and it was a good deal. And so I'd say, I'd no problem in saying yes. I'm not Ian Paisley here who says no all the time. I tried to say yes if the deal was good. But we judge it, the members would judge it for themselves and see if the deal is good. You know, and that's the way we work things. But democracy has left SIP2 a long, long time ago. Democracy. Michael O'Connor's legacy and David Begg's legacy is going to be to the trade union movement of Ireland. If they're not stopped, it's going to be the ruination of the trade union movement.
Well, democracy has left the country, Alan. I mean, let's put it in perspective. You went out canvassing with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth wanted to be elected in the Kilkenny-Carlow area, and you went around, knocked on doors, and yet they still voted somebody in. Was it Fianna Fáil person they voted in, or
Fianna Fáil person they voted in?
I mean, what?
And I think he topped the poll with 18,000 first preference votes.
I mean, what?
The fella had 14 to 15,000 first preference votes, and the nearest person you might say is left was Kathleen Funchion at Sinn Féin, and she got 11,000 votes. I think the last count. I don't think that was Kathleen's first count now. But you say to yourself, what are we doing wrong, Alan? Like, there was enough candidates there. Like you say, whether you didn't like Liz or not, that's fine enough. That's fair enough. When you're big enough to put yourself up for election, if people decide not to vote for you, that's the democratic right. But there was enough decent candidates there in front of them that they could have made a choice elsewhere. And they just failed to do so. And it's just amazing in such large numbers these guys get in again. And, all right, like I said to you at the start of the show, we know they have the media on their side, but they also have money on their side. I drove, one of the days I was in Kilkenny, I went over to Wexford afterwards. I was at a meeting there with the Loch Garman against Austerity Group in White's Hotel in Wexford. And I was driving over, I think it was from Kilkenny, and I seen a signpost for New Ross off the motorway. So I said, that's probably a quicker way. So I went that direction off to New Ross, and I didn't realise how far that constituency went. It went right down, basically, until you were outside the town of New Ross. And you know what, Alan and Steve, and this is what we can't, the direct democracy can't, National Citizens Movement can't, Irish Democratic Party can't, our People Before Profit or AAA, the amount of posters right up to the edge of New Ross, which is down in Wexford, on every country road, because it was a country road I travelled. It was a lovely evening. I had plenty of time, so I basically just went for a scenic drive. But they had posters everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. I'd say the spend down there from Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil had to be somewhere in between 40 to 80,000. I mean, the amount of posters was unreal.
Well, see, the thing, the money talks, we had a chap on the show, we had a guest on the show a couple of years ago, he's passed away now, a chap called Bob Chapman. He's a financial expert, and he lived in Europe, he spoke about 6 languages, and he worked in counterintelligence for the military, and he went into finance, and he's passed away now, but he did say to us on the show a few years ago, he said, people are now hurting enough. When they can't feed their kids, he said, that's when they'll do something. The trouble is, and I see it with people I know, I see it with them, and when you mention something, they go, oh yeah, that's terrible. And it's the kind of, I'm okay, Jack. It's kind of, I'm okay, once I'm okay, that's fine.
Situation that you say that now, just to tell you again about another incident, a person I met in the street in Kilkenny, right in the heart of the city, not too far from Kilkenny Castle itself. And in fairness, a businesswoman came out the door of her shop. She had a chat with me. Liz was on radio. Liz performed well on radio. That was grand. And she had a chat with me. And she said to me, you should see this town. She said, Alan, she said, there's a group of monks seemingly in the city of Kilkenny. And they again give out free food on a Tuesday. And she said, I'm here a long time, she says, in my business, and I've just about held on by my fingertips. But she said, I remember when they'd give out their free food, when there'd be 5 or 10 people outside the door. Now you have 300 people outside the door every Tuesday. Now that's the indication. So whether it's, maybe, I don't know, it's something in the Irish psyche that we don't like, and let's put it out there first, that if you're in major financial difficulties, you are not a failure.
Yeah.
It's the government and has failed you.
Yeah.
The Irish political system has failed you. You, if you're listening at home, are not the failure. But I think some men and women in Ireland are ashamed to say, Alan and Steve, that I won't tell my friend if I'm not feeding my child right, because I feel it's my fault. So I hide it to myself. But when you look behind the doors, and you've seen many of it, I know, Alan and Steve, and you've probably seen it yourselves, you've seen it amongst your friends, you know people had to leave.
Yeah.
Seen it we hear enough stories within our own communities, with named persons that we know.
Yeah.
We know it's there. But there's something about Irish people, there's probably many more there, that they just, it's not, again, I stress, it's not them being a failure. It's the system failing them.
Yeah. And that's the one thing we always say. You know, like, I do some voluntary work for the National Land League, so I'm down in Trim Court, and we're helping people deal with the mortgages and stuff like that. And that's the first thing I would say to them, and I have said to them, is that this is nothing got to do with you being a failure. It's the government have let you down, and because of them letting you down, you're in this predicament. That's all. It's nothing got to do with you.
Correct. That's great. 100% out.
Come here. Did you see the thing on the internet? Luke Ming-Flanagan. He's over there doing what he does best, storing it up. But with the German guy said that he, I can't remember the chap's name. Sorry. But he was on and he was saying how Ireland, we've suffered the austerity, but Ireland is now doing quite well, and that was kind of the general consensus that we suffered a bit, but now we're doing well. Luke Ming-Flanagan got up and said to you, man, well, hang on a second, where are you getting your information from? He says, because it's wrong. He says, I can tell you the Irish people are not doing well. There's so many suicides a day. People are suffering. People are being evicted. So many evictions, forced evictions, and see me, normally when you get up to ask a question, the guy will answer you, but there's never any backwards and forwards. But your man got back up again, and he said that he got all his information from the Irish government, and the Irish government are telling Europe that we're doing quite well. Everything's rosy and happy days. Give us some more of the same.
Luke told me a story. I met him as well when we were down in Ballyhay for the 4th year anniversary. I was talking to him down there, and he made a little speech when we got back from the walk. And he basically made this speech. What Luke has been doing, and in fairness, I'll say it when it's true, Sinn Féin has been doing it as well. They've been lobbying other European MEPs. And they're lobbying them to the extent they're telling them the picture of what's happening in Ireland. And Luke has managed to recruit, you could say, to our point of view, a few actual German MEPs who are not from, of course, the government party. And he said, what's crazy about Europe now, and it surely shows when he gets the opportunity, you're going to see now shortly, probably, and I'm sure Luke will show us, some of these German MEPs getting up and supporting a write-down for Ireland. And you'll also see, probably, what's your man's name? Hayes, is it? Brian Hayes, is he out there? You'll probably see Brian Hayes as being again the Irish MEP getting up and arguing that we don't want a write-down in debt. Now, that's amazing. You have the Irish MEP not arguing for a better deal for Ireland, and you have the German MEP that will be arguing for a better deal for Ireland. Like I stress, this German MEP is not a member of the governing party. But that's the crazy situation that's in Europe now.
But the problem is that the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael parties, they're all run like corporate companies. And Enda Kenny being, what does he know about business, being a bloody school teacher? But they're all run like corporate companies. And unfortunately, you might not want to run the national citizens movement the same way, but it's the only way you're going to do it for now. I've worked in the corporate world, and I don't agree with the hierarchical system. It doesn't work. There's too much control from the people at the top, especially when ego kicks in and they go on a power trip and everything else, right? So the person at the top, I was looking at, there's certain companies in America where directors for the company are actually voted in by the staff, right? Which is real democracy as far as I'm concerned. It's not a case that it's done from the top down. It's actually done from the bottom up. And it's like a cooperative. So if you had the National Citizen Movement, right, you get everybody together in the party and go, right, who do you want to... Everybody puts a nomination of being a party, say, director, for want of another word, or, and then say you need 3 people, and there's 5 nominations. The 3 people are voted in, right? They are controlled by the people of the group, and they are told, there's going to be recall, and if they step out of line, the actual party can sack them, and they vote somebody else in. Now, if you had that kind of system, similar to what they have in America, in a party, system, then the people at the top will know that they can be kicked out, right, through democracy. But yeah, their job will be to do what they can for the benefit of the party. And then, obviously, whatever has to be filtered down, everybody agrees on and votes on. But there has to be some kind of organisation or structure in there, because Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they've been around the block long enough, these parties. It's all about control. They're all institutionalised. That's why George Lee got out after 9 months. When he realised that was all institutionalised, and he thought, I can't do anything here, it's all control. So he left. And obviously that's what's going on. If you don't, and Dominic Hannigan, Regina Doherty, I think is it Regina
Doherty, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are aware. I mean, they might be saying we're trying our best, but they know the places, they know these parties are institutionalised, and they have to do what they're told. So they're just towing the rope, because they're on a nice big earner, things are nice. And on that night she talked about, well, I had a business and it didn't work out. Well, look, I'm not having to go, people have businesses and they don't work out. But I'd be more interested in hiring somebody or getting somebody in who's been successful in business rather than not being successful in business, because, if they can kind of go with the storm and do their best with their business, then all the better. But we won't go down the issues with Regina and the money she owes and all that kind of stuff, what she did. That's paid off, apparently, as she said on the night. But I think whatever party you're in, whether it's NCM, Direct Democracy, whether it's AAA, whatever it is, I think the people there will need to get all the supporters together in one room and go, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have to get organised, because if we don't do this, we're going to be controlled. We're going to have another 5 years of this, and it's going to get worse.
Successfully, could be controlled by a personality, or someone's ego gets run away with themselves. I mean, again, that's why you kind of said in your show to people listening, like if Fianna Fáil people listening who votes that way, Fine Gael people listening, to start at is challenging your own party. I mean, look at Leo Varadkar has supposedly earned a reputation for being outspoken. He hasn't said a peep about his party's association with Denis O'Brien. Now, if Leo was that outspoken, and he was that popular for being outspoken that he doesn't follow the trend, I challenge Leo. Surely to God, regardless if we differ on politics and the way we run the country and everything else, surely to God, if he's representing the people, he has to be disgusted about Denis O'Brien's involvement with his own party, and Denis O'Brien's now interference with democracy. I'd ask Leo, where's Leo? He's not outspoken now, because he's doing what you're just saying there. He's fallen into line.
Yeah, that's
fallen into line with the directives from the top. You do not, none of the Fine Gael party, as far as I know, now Alan, you can correct me, and I haven't heard one of them criticise their association, their long association with Denis O'Brien. I've heard none of them. And I haven't heard any Fianna Fáilers come out and say that Brian Cowan should look for work somewhere else.
Yeah. But that's the way it is, Alan. I mean, a corporate company works the exact same way. You have to toe the rope because you're working for that company. And if anything happens outside that, you have to, it's damage control. You have to, if anything happens, you have to protect it, you have to take care of it. And you have to be very diplomatic when you're talking to people about it. And you have to, that's just the approach on a corporate company. And these parties are the same thing. Again, as Martin said on PIR, it's the party whip system. They are a corporate company, and the board of directors are the senior politicians. So we don't have representative democracy. We have a representative dictatorship. That's what we have in Ireland over here.
That, isn't it? You had the four of them running the government then. You had Brendan Howlin, you had Michael Newland, Enda Kenny. It used to be Eamon Gilmore, now it's Joan Burton. You had four of them. So they're setting themselves up. They're making decisions and moving things on. And the other headless chickens that sit in the Dáil and just stand when they're told to stand and sit when they're told to sit, that's all they do.
Yeah.
In actual fact.
That's it.
Them four there do decide on everything. When people voted for Fine Gael, they didn't vote for four people. They voted for the party with a full party representing them in the Dáil. They don't have that. Four people are running the government.
Yeah, that's because they don't know about they're not aware of the party whip system. So obviously when they see something getting voted in and they see everyone in the party voted for this, they think, well, obviously, hang on a second, 20 odd people or whatever or more have voted for this, so it must be good for us because, that if that amount of people voted for it, has to be good. But they don't realise that there's only 3 or 4 people run the country. But talking about voting, Alan, Bill Hicks wrote on the chat room there, has voting ever made any difference for or change for the better? And I think that's a good question, because a lot of the times, you know, we're given, as Joe Maguire says, you come up to the vote and you're given Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, the Sinn Féin, the Greens, whoever. And actually, Joan is kind of wondering what your suggestions are for 2016. But voting, do you believe that? I know it's the only thing we have. I don't know if there's anything better. But does it really make a difference at all? Because we know that elections can be rigged, the counts can be rigged. I mean, let's say, for argument's sake, if the whole country were to decide we're all going to vote for the National Citizens Movement, as an example, and then Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the rest of them, let's say if they got no votes, do you reckon that would actually be, when it came to them reading out the results on the 6 o'clock evening news, is that the way it would go? Or would
you avoid it at the heart? Yeah, even now.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Would they actually, if the NCM, as an example, got 99.9% of the vote?
Steve,
huh?
Steve, it's got so bad that actually, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. There's certain things on the internet I won't believe, and I'm not going to go into them now as a debate here, there, or anywhere. But what I suggest to you, the Irish government and the political system has got so bad that actually we now would believe anything. And that's not our fault. That's not your fault, Steve, or the people that's listening to the show tonight. That's not their fault. It's the political system's fault.
Yeah.
Because they lied to us so much. And even when you say, when did the vote matter? The Lisbon Treaty was one that could have mattered. We didn't vote for it. We voted no. And that was a vote that mattered. And yeah, they found a way in manipulating it to have it again. And who was there again to sell us out? The Labour Party and Eamon Gilmore. You know, he said one thing on one side of his mouth and he was saying the other to the American embassy, if you remember.
Yeah.
You know, that's when one vote could have counted. We can't give up on democracy, even no matter how bad the system is. It's the only system we have. We have to try, and that's why I was making the appeal to your listeners who are fed up with the system, are fed up with all political parties, to go out then and campaign. They're probably the majority, if you think of it, Alan and Steve. They're probably the majority. The people that have no belief in any party are probably the majority out there. And I'm saying to them that they can make a difference. The ones you blame, go out and campaign against, and you can make a huge difference.
And I think what you're saying there, Alan, I totally agree. The fact that everybody needs to do the bit. This is what, chipping away at this. And there's no point, you know, we know, myself and Steve are aware of the situation, right? And you could easily sit back and go, oh well, we're knackered, there's nothing we can do. But myself and Steve are still doing what we can in the time that we have, even if it's a little bit, some of it is not related to politics. But it's all got to do with chipping away at the system. And whether it's down in Trim Court, handing out flyers and speaking to people regarding repossessions in the court, or maybe it's the seminar we're going to be doing to Payne Genie, which has nothing got to do with politics, but it's still got to do with how the system works and the farmers controlling the system.
Bringing a conference about a Payne Genie that's free, by the way. It's fair dues to you, so I try to attend myself.
Yeah, well, that's what we try and do. We know people don't have the money. You know, and we know this is important because there's a lot of people. The hospitals are, well, you know yourself. They're full up with people. A&E. 5 or 6 hours, probably even longer. And if we know there's a product out there that might help them in some way, then obviously we're going to try and do our best. And the free seminar is really to say, get everybody to come down. It's free. It's not going to cost you money, just your petrol or your bus ticket if you come to the hotel. And then see for yourself. Make up your own mind on what you see. And if you think it's no good, it's not going to do for you, you don't believe it, that's fine. But you have to see the evidence. There's no point saying, oh, it's all kind of, it's all ridiculous, it's all crap, it's all kind of conspiracy theory, and that, it's all magic, it doesn't work at all. And that's what we've been told, that we are staking oil salesmen, and we're not even selling the product. We just want people to come along and see it, and make their own mind up on what they think. And if they, maybe if we have the time, if they want to volunteer, if they have an ailment, then maybe if Richard is there, he might be able to do something. But so we'll see what happens. But this is what I'm saying. Everybody needs to be able to do it a bit, because the only way we're going to sort this out is people power. The government are not going to help us. There's a 1% of people there who are making a lot of money, and they're sitting back and they're enjoying everything, and they're reaping everything in, and they don't want the system to change, and the system's not going to change unless we, the people, stand up and start doing things ourselves.
I agree with you totally, and fair play to you. And when you talk about Trim Court, I've been over there myself a few times, and I know you're over there, Alan, all the time, right? And it was just funny. I seen Thomas Bourne turn up once.
So did I, yeah.
Yeah, guess when it happened? The day before he was on Vincent Brown's show. Was that a coincidence? No. Because Thomas wanted to say he's seen all the suffering down there. He didn't talk to anybody apart from Ray, because Ray did want to talk to everybody. And he didn't talk to anybody else, and he got out of there. But he just wanted to say he was there because he has his finger on the pulse of his community, and he knows the suffering that's going on. Rubbish. Where are all them guys when yous are there, in fairness to you, with the Land League, with the Hub, they're in, week out, yous are there. You never get a phone call from anybody within Fianna Fáil. Even if they said, look, don't say it. You never get, I can imagine you guys have never got a phone call from any one of them.
No, not at all.
Assistance.
And I seen Thomas Bourne there as well. I went down one day and Thomas Bourne was there, and he was there probably for about an hour and a half, and he was looking around the old courtroom and, you know, taking it all in, and he just didn't seem interested at all. Now, I have kind of, we had a protest, member in Kells, and it was bad day, and I had to go with Thomas Bourne. He wanted to shake my hand, and I wouldn't shake it. I called him a parasite. I said, what are you doing here? I said, you're only here for the votes. I said, that's all you're here.
And did you notice when you did challenge him, because you didn't want to shake his hand, he didn't hang around.
No,
he couldn't get away from you quick enough.
Yeah.
I know. So look at, you know, what can he say? I'd love to meet the Fianna Fáil guy that'd come up to me and show me something like the Fianna Fáil guy that gave out stink about Charlie Hoggy's corruption. The Fianna Fáil guy that called for Bertie Ahern to stand down. You know, where are they? I mean, why isn't it in such a large party that we don't have people there that were out riots? Now, I know Matty McGrath has left Fianna Fáil, wasn't it? Matty left Fianna Fáil and kind of rejuvenated himself a little bit. But I mean, it's just, again, for such a large party, where are the people within them giving out? I was brought up, and my father was always interested in politics as well. And I was brought up, and I always took an interest in politics. And one fella I actually admire in Irish politics. He was a Labour Party member. Now, you think of this. You think of when Noel Brown, and it was Dr. Noel Brown, as I remember it, guys, he went up against the Catholic Church, I think, back in the 60s or 70s. Am I right?
I'm not too sure. I don't remember him.
Check that out. Dr. Noel Brown. Now, you think about that. In fairness to him, he got ostracised. His name was dragged in every pulpit and every church in Ireland because he dared to challenge. It slips my mind what he challenged the church about. But he did challenge them. Now, in fairness to him, you think about how powerful the Irish church was in Irish society. That was a brave thing to do. And it did finish, as far as I know, his political career when he challenged them. But the man was brave enough to have a go. And I admired him for that. Because the Irish church in the 1960s were all powerful in this country. And as we know, they got away with absolute and utter murder, basically.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I admired him for his stance, because the only one I can pick out, there's very few Irish politicians. David Norris. I like David Norris. I like the man, and I say to myself, just think, now, I'd say to you, when it came to signing the Water Services Bill, what would David Norris have done? It would have been a very interesting question to find out if it went to the Irish with David Norris in it. And of course, the powers that be, seeing what was happening, and dug as much dirt or any dirt they can on David, and they threw it out there before the election, because he was one of the hot favourites going into it.
Yeah.
And I would have faith in David Norris. I think that he would at least sit down and listen to you. He would have come out to the people at the gate. He would have engaged. He would have talked. And I think he would have made a conscious decision. And he wouldn't be, I don't think he's the type of character that would be afraid to cause a constitutional crisis over a matter so important as the water issue.
Yeah.
You know, So it would have been a very interesting thing for that to have happened if David Norris had been in the Oris when that bill would have went forward. And the other bill, which fast-tracked evictions, as we know. You know, again, I think he's a man in the presidency we could have approached.
I'm just amazed at these people who are standing up to be elected in the parties, and they don't have a clue about what's going on with the system. I mean, I remember the last time we had the elections, we had a young female Labour candidate saying, well, I'll go in, I'm going to be doing this. I mean, she was probably just over nappies, basically, or just left school, I think. And I just said to her, you don't have a clue. And I asked her a few questions, and she just didn't know. And she just said, well, I would do my best. And I said, you don't understand. You really don't understand what you're getting yourself into and how the party works and the politic works. And this is and people are voting because they go, oh, he's a nice man, or he's a nice girl, or he got me fence fixed, I'm going to vote for him. And you're going to shake them saying, look, his party is destroying the country. There's people, the kids are leaving the country, there's suicides, people being evicted, and you're voting for this clown because he's in. Now, he could be a nice guy, but he's joining the party, so that means he's ignorant because he doesn't even have a clue what's going on if he's joining one of the mainstream parties. And then when he gets in, he realises he's institutionalised, but hey, look at my pay packet, I've got loads of money, I'll just toe the rope. Do that for 4 or 5 years, get a nice little pension, and then happy days. I'm done. I'm okay, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably give her a bit of an education she never had before. Look, isn't it? You think of it. Isn't it a good career option?
Oh, yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, it's fantastic,
that's the beauty of it. It's a really, really good career option. Because if you manage... I mean, I looked at the leaflets down in Carlow, Kilkenny, right? We hit on many of the issues that we felt were important, which was evictions, which was the water issue, but which was with the Europe issue treating us so badly as well. But I looked at the front of the Fianna Fáil leaflet, and there was a picture of himself, Aylward, holding a hurl with one of the Kilkenny hurlers. Now, I know Kilkenny hurling's great and all the rest of it, but like, you know, we're voting in a political campaign for the seat in the Dáil, and we have a fella with a hurley and a slitter on the front of the leaflet, you know, and it just, you know, again, who he is. I think he might have been an ex-hurler himself. I think, Alan, I'm not too sure, but I mean, it just beggars belief. Like I say, them girls don't know the system. They're in the system and they be eaten up and chewed. If they try to change the system, they're eaten up and chewed and spat out. The same way I was out of SIPTI.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's the same with the banking system. I got a phone call from, I think I mentioned it on last week's show, from the International Department of Bank of Ireland. There's something I have to do anyway. And I was talking to this guy, and he just wasn't aware what was going on. He just didn't know what was going on because I kind of told him a few things, and he said to me, you obviously know what you're talking about. And I said, well, I have a look at what's going on. I look at the markets and I'm just keeping an eye on things. And then he said to me, oh, listen, I'll call you back. Do you mind if I call you back in 3 months' time? Because he wants 3 weeks' time, sorry. Because he wants to pick my brain again over stuff. And it's like the bank staff, you know, if you say to them, do you know what fractional reserve banking is? And they go, no. And you go, well, you're using it every day and you don't know what it is. So, again, you have people like the politicians who are brought in because they don't want them to know the system. And it's like this hierarchical process again where you have, you know, department managers and they know a little bit more than the staff and the staff know a little bit of the jigsaw. But nobody knows the big jigsaw, only the people at the top, which is the party whip system or the board of directors. And if you take that hierarchical structure, it doesn't matter whether it's 50 people or 500 people, the same process applies. And this is why the hierarchical system doesn't work, because the people at the top have too much control over the masses down below. And we have to get away from that. And, you know, maybe the direct democracy process will sort that out, because we can sack people, recall, and obviously, you know, have a referendum to, you know, decide to do what we want to do in the country. But, you know, that's just my own take on it. But it's amazing when you challenge people.
What do we do when we stand before election, Alan and Steve? Like, we stand before the electorate and we say, like, trust me, my name is Alan Laws. Richard Boyd Barrett says, trust me, my name is Richard. And Jerry Adams says, trust me, my name is Jerry. So it's all on trust. Look where that has got us. Now, even when I'm looking at myself as well, look where trust has got us. Because I voted for Labour in the past, right? Because I hoped that it would be Labour's way. But it wasn't. Yeah. And I was stupid enough. So now I'm feeling out stupid because I was stupid enough to think that could be the case. So that's where trust got us, Alan. It got us nowhere. Yeah. So in fairness, what direct democracy are trying to do, what the 1 year initiative is trying to do, they're trying in some way, how do we hold these guys accountable? And it can be anybody. Because as human beings, I studied philosophy, as human beings, we're fallible. We can make mistakes. And we're a greedy animal by nature. That's what we are by nature. We're a greedy animal. We want war. So there has to be some checks and balances in the system. The direct democracy way is a decent way. I know a lot of other people is trashed it. And it seems to be, what I seem to be getting from older political parties, and I don't want to make an attack on any, so I won't name them, but you're probably aware of this yourself. Anybody new that comes along gets attacked and trashed. I seen there was posts about Ben Gilroy saying he retweeted UKIP stuff and did this and did that and did the other, and and look at, I don't think Ben wants to be a member of UKIP by any shape or form. I think it's other parties feeling threatened, and they like to have it just an attack. And why are they attacking us for? Ben does no harm to anybody. Ben has tried to help people. Yeah. So whether you like him, all right, and you don't like him, that's fair enough. But what damage has he done to anybody?
I think, Alan, just to kind of round things up, I think people have to, some people need to grow up. There's two sides to every story, and if you're forming your opinion just based on one side, then they need a bit of cop on. You have to hear both sides of the story. I've just got a text in, actually, and from I won't say who it is, but it's somebody just in reference to Aer Lingus, and they're just saying that what's happening is, obviously, there's people who've worked in Aer Lingus for a long time, and there's a union there. But what's happening is they're giving promotion to new staff coming in with no experience just because they give a good interview, rather than looking at the experience of the people that have been there a long time. And I've come across this in the corporate world where they promise you a promotion. No union, but they promise you a promotion. And I've had it happen to me. And they go, oh yeah, the job's yours, yeah, no problem. And then they hire somebody in above you, and then they go, well, actually, and that did happen to me, and
it happened to me as well.
I walked in the office and just resigned.
Alan, it happened to me as well. As shop steward, I wasn't going to get any job in my hospital, and I didn't. The only job, funny enough, I got was at nights, and it was obvious where I got the nighttime job to get rid of me.
Yeah,
floor in the daytime.
Now we're going to go over
the Aer Lingus, just to deal with the Aer Lingus thing. I mean, when you do an interview like that, you get told all sorts of things. You get told, oh well, I've seen situations where you would have better qualifications than another person, and then you'd have the excuses, well, he just performed better on the day.
Yeah.
And you get all this sort of rubbish. What they probably do there is the people there, like yourself, would maybe have a trade union history. They look at you, they don't want to give you, so they get the new guy in, they promote him very quickly, he becomes very loyal to them, to the company. But the one warning I want to give Aer Lingus workers is they all know the history of Team Aer Lingus, so going over to another company is always carries risks, and it carries huge risks. But also, the Shannon stopover from America, that's the weakest link there. I cannot see a company that's owned by shareholders in the Middle East allowing the Shannon stopover to carry on. That would be the first thing that will go. And in fairness, the Shannon stopover to an extent, it helped the people of County Limerick, County Clare get the benefit of some tourism, that everything wasn't all around the pale. So you have a government that used to be thoughtful, at least in that way, to think that maybe we need a few tourists coming through here as well. And so there you had the Shannon stopover. I guarantee you, well, and within a very, very short space of time. And I don't believe any of the guarantees, like Claire Daly. And Claire Daly was a shop steward in Aer Lingus, so I'm sure Claire knows better than most. And she says none of the guarantees are worth the paper they're written on.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Steve, you've got a few questions before we wind things up.
Well,
Alan.
I've got one. Alan, election 2016. I know the kind of, there's different groups, like there's the NCM, there's the AAA, there's DDI. But what's your thoughts? What do you reckon is going to happen when the election comes around? Do you reckon at that point in time, all the main parties will have, switched their masks again, and will be, they'll get voted in again? Or do you reckon the people have actually finally woken up?
Oh, look, there's two ways of answering this. Let's tell you what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah.
Right? What I'd like to see happen. Because we have to remember, Alan and Steve, we're talking to a lot of people that are voting in a different way. They're voting for the government, they're voting for the past parties. How do we convince them to vote otherwise? I mean, I would ask in particular, the bigger left-wing parties in particular, I would ask Sinn Féin, People Before Profit and AAA. They don't have to join together, but what they need to do, and if they invited direct democracy, NCM and all that into the party, it would be great. What you could do, and what you kind of have to try to say to people, there is an alternative. So they need to put a policy document together that all parties that could sign up to. So this is a policy document for an alternative government. So people, rather than you vote because you're a People Before Profit voter, or you vote that you're an NCM person, you're voting then for an alternative government. And actually you're voting for government, and that would actually maybe get people's attention. So Jerry at least and Richard Boyd Barrett and Joe Higgins should start to talk to each other, because they have to get over their egos. And they have to put a policy document in front of people that say, there's the way. And it actually, you can have a government by voting the other way. Because people even the disenchanted Fianna Fáil voter right now thinks, and that this is the problem, I've no alternative. What's the alternative? Right? Now, that's what I'd like to see happen. And that's what the people, I think, want, is the some alternative. We might win them voters that would vote for Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, Alan, and we need to win them over. We need to win them over. We not only have all the evidence that we're going through tonight on the corrupt way the country's been run over 30 years, right? There's not only all that evidence that you guys are helping to get out there, that Liam Deegan is helping to get out there, that the NCM is helping to get out there, Catherine Murphy's doing a fabulous job, the dog getting it out there, but you also have, people that believe in the parties, and we need to give them an option for government. And if that option is given, I would believe there is a possibility for the first time ever in this country for having a left-wing government.
Well,
right?
they did it in Greece, and Spain and Portugal look like they're going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, and that's what I hope happens. So if Jerry is listening, Jerry Adams is listening, Richard Boyd Barrett is listening, Joe Higgins, that's what you're going to have to do. AAA are not going to get in as a government. People Before Profit is not going to get in as a government. Sinn Féin are not going to get in as a government. So it's not going to happen. The only way it can happen is if them people start working together. And if that can happen, that is a possibility, Alan. If people start working together and give people an option, that's where I think we can win the disenchanted Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael voters. Because they might just go along and vote for the short again because they feel there's no other government to vote for. Now, what could happen, what will happen? I'd probably, being honest, I think it's going to be one of the most unusual elections that we've ever seen. But I do think that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil could possibly join together to form a government.
Well, you might as well, because they're the same parties. I mean, you couldn't put a fag paper between the two of them anyway.
Yeah, that's quite correct. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think that's what I think will happen. Because I think Labour, and I think the smarter ones know it, Labour will be eliminated at the next election. Decimated. Oh,
they'd be destroyed. Labour's gone. Forget about Labour.
I think even, I work with people from Blanchardstown. I know a lot of people from Blanchardstown. And I know Joan Burton must be covered in Castleknock as much as she can, because I think her seat will be under threat. Because I think the AAA will get a huge vote there. I think Sinn Féin will get a huge vote there. And I think there'll be definitely an anti-Labour vote there. I think she could be under threat. I think she could be gone herself. And that would be a death-defying blow.
That would be it.
I think that could happen.
Okay, Alan, well, we come to the end of the interview. Listen, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
No problem.
Much appreciated. Great information there. Great, for people to have you think about, what they're doing and think about the voting and the way things are going anyway with the country. It's great information. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and I'm sure we'll do a catch-up again with you as to what's going on, because no, thanks a lot for coming on, and there's loads more to talk about, so I'm sure we'll do it again. But I'll pass you over to Steve, and Steve will get all your details.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about getting all your details, but no, the information is great, Alan. It's always a pleasure to have you on, because you're like a breath of fresh air, or a dose of salt. I don't know which, but you.
Steve.
Huh?
Are we off here now?
No, we're not.
No, I wanted to say something to you off air. I'll give you a name, number, somebody.
Right.
Steve,
no, but just saying, you're either like a dose of salt or a breath of fresh air. You say it as you see it, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. And I can only say to people that if you are going to be canvassing in their area, no matter who they are, I'm sure they'll listen to you. They'll respect you as a human being, because you call it as you see it, and fair play to you for doing that. We have the Facebook details, the National Citizens Movement, the NCM. We have the Facebook page. I've popped that up on the chat room there. But is there any other links that you want to give out for people to find out more?
Look, the National Citizens Movement Mayo page is up on Twitter. We have a National Citizens Movement page on Twitter as well. Myself will be Alan Laws, Navan, NCM. We have National Citizens Movements in Donegal, in Westmeath, in Meath, in Navan, in Dublin South, Dublin North. We have it in Cork. We have it in Galway. And if I forget to mention anybody, I'm going to be killed here. So I better rack my brains. But we have lots of pages around the country, and we're trying to spread ourselves around the country, and we will be travelling around the country in the coming weeks and months on a recruitment campaign. We'll be looking for people who are interested to join as members. People want to do that, they can get in touch with any of us on any of the pages on Facebook. We're looking then, the qualification you need to join us is show us a picture of you out there protesting with the many thousands of other people. That's your CV as far as I'm concerned. And once you're showing yourself as a concerned citizen, you've shown yourself that you get up there and you get out on the streets, you're more than welcome in our party.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, Alan, just stay with us there, and we'll go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Yeehaw! 5678. Yeah, sorry about that.
That was cheesy.
It was Elv Allen's collections.
Yeah, I'm going to remove them from my collection.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know who it was, by the way.
Okay, that was Alan Oz. Big thank you to Alan from NCM, the National Citizens Movement, who's doing a great job going around campaigning and waking people up and trying to educate people to what's going on. And I hope that's just a small glimpse tonight of the work that's going on and things that are going on in Ireland, especially for people who don't live in Ireland, who can see what's going on. And it's not what you hear in the media, just in case you think that it's all rosy over here and Ireland's being a good country and doing what they're told. Well, they are, but not for the one to trying to change things over here. Okay, so very quickly we have to wind things up. Again, just a reminder that the Payne Genie seminar, it's penciled in for the 21st of June, 1 o'clock, in the Ardboyne Hotel in Navan. There's parking there, free parking, and also the bus from Dublin comes up and it stops outside, the 109 bus, if you are travelling from Dublin. And I'm not too sure about where it comes from the other side, maybe 109 from Cavan, not too sure. But we'll confirm it. Watch the Facebook page and watch the newsletter we'll send out to confirm that. I'll be hopefully confirming that tomorrow with the hotel, and we'll send out a flyer. And if you can make it, great. It's a free seminar. It's not going to cost you anything. Obviously, donations do help. We'll have a little donation bucket there. And if you can afford it, pop 1 or 2, 3 euros in. If you can't, doesn't matter. It's not obligatory. Steve,
it's not obligatory. It's mandatory.
So next week, let's just talk about next week. Next week we have John Flaherty on. He was a chap talking about addiction, and also we have Anthony Hughes. Now Anthony Hughes It's a guy in Dublin, in Stillorgan, that also uses the Pain Genie, and he does alternative therapies, and apparently he's very, very good at what he does. So we're going to get Anthony on, and we're going to be talking to him about what he does, and give you some information on that. Steve, who's on with Vin, do you know?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure who's on with Vin later. I think the name Paul. I think I've seen the name Paul getting bandied about. I'm not 100% sure, but it's always good anyway. So I mean, you know, if you're listening on the OYM stream, you know, when we're done, tune into the PIR stream, because it's always good information. But yeah, as regards to Pain Genie, yeah, I have to say, and I wanted to mention this earlier, but I said I'd wait till the end. As people know, Alan and I got a demonstration from Richard in my house there a little while ago, and I think that I was pain free for about a week, but I have to say the pain has actually returned. But I mean, after he done the initial thing, I was pain free for a whole week, you know, and that was only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That was it. And as Richard did say, you know, you might need three sessions, but yeah, if you have the device yourself, he says, you know, you could just use it whenever needed.
Yeah.
But to be pain free for a week, it made a world of difference to me.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Well, you know, we'll have the demo. We'll see how it goes. People come along, make up your own mind, see what you think. That's all we can say. We can't do any more than that.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, look, if you're in pain, if you're not in pain, come along anyway, just to see what it's all about. If you are in pain, even better. You might even get a hands on. And if you know someone who's in pain, I think all we can say is, if you're going to come along, bring a friend, bring a family member, bring a skeptic.
Yeah, because as I say, we're not selling the product, we're not getting any commission for the product, it's not on the website, we're not doing anything. All we're doing is letting you have a look at it and seeing it in action so you can make up your own mind. That's it, nothing else. End of story. Okay, so we talked about next week, who's on next week. Fingers crossed that'll all go. If there's any news, any links, or any people that you want on, give us a shout, send us an email, let us know. For myself, Alan James, take it easy, stay safe, enjoy your bank holiday weekend. Hopefully you'll have good weather during the week. Take care and see you next week. Bye bye.
Good weather. Are you joking? Yeah, okay. There'll be sunshine in between the showers, but as Alan said before, because it's summer, the showers will be that little bit warmer. Anyway, for myself, Steve and George, stay tuned for People's Internet Radio within on the Sunday at 9 p.m. So we'll do it all again next week. Until then, take care. Bye bye.
Open your mind.